أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. First of all, we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we all gathered in this place, a place where inshallah we have nothing but to have love, respect and worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where we know each other, learn about each other, and inshallah go home with energy, with a lot of changes in our mind to be better inshallah. We have 4 respected speakers with us inshallah, and I think all of you know them all. From my right, Brother HussamAyloush, the Executive Director of CARE, with respected speaker as well in all the masajid in Southern California, and he's known, mashallah, with the interaction with the, especially with interfaith, and also when we said CARE, something happened. But inshallah, CARE will continue.
It's Trump's fault.
So also we have Dr. AhmedSoboh, who is the President, the Chairman of the Board of Trustees of the Shura of Southern California. And alhamdulillah, in the last few years, he learned so much about all the masajid and the major projects achieved by the Shura, inshallah, the building, and the respect gained in the Muslim community at large and in the community in general. And also we have Brother AhmedKhaldy, who is the Executive Director or the Vice President of Mercy Without Limits. Brother AhmedKhaldy, may Allah be pleased with him. He has a direct relationship with the younger or the youth, and also, mashallah, with the motorcycle, with the trip you do around the United States. Alhamdulillah, he generates a lot of, basically, he working for Mercy Without Limit and do fundraising, and alhamdulillah, as a da'wah in general. And also we have Sheikh HamdySadek, who just came from the Umrah, as all of you know, and who's our Imam for the last 20 years in the center of Asram, and also he gave a khutbah in different masajid as well. So inshallah, we're talking about the challenges facing the Muslim community, or facing the community in general. So I'm going to start, inshallah, each speaker will take about 10 minutes, and I would like to see interaction with you in the end. So if you're going to take notes, it will be a great idea. We'll give inshallah Brother HussamAyloush to speak about the challenges from his experience, from his perspective, working in CARE, and also working with the Muslim community in general.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillah wa alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah. It's always a pleasure reconnecting with the family camp, the Hawthorne family camp, and mashallah, the community from all over Southern California. MashaAllah. Inshallah, there are so many challenges that we deal with, and I want to focus more on the external ones, and I think some of our respected speakers will focus on some of the internal challenges. The main challenge from an external perspective is Islamophobia. Islamophobia is not just talks about Islam, Islamophobia is deadly. We saw Islamophobia in New Zealand, we saw Islamophobia in Quebec, we saw Islamophobia in Norway, we see Islamophobia in America. It is a deadly act. Islamophobia is not just about me feeling uncomfortable. Islamophobia is about fueling anger, hatred against Muslims to the point where someone can actually justify picking up a gun and going into a masjid, going into a school and shooting people. I pray that we don't witness that, but I have a feeling the way things are being pushed by the Islamophobia industry, the goal is to create that scenario in America again. Not just as we see small attacks at mosques in America, but as we saw in New Zealand and others. Inshallah, may Allah protect us and protect all people from such acts. However, Islamophobia manifests itself in many forms. Safety is one issue, as we mentioned. It's deadly. But even if we're not attacked at the mosques, our identity is being attacked. Our rights are being attacked. Meaning, the result of Islamophobia is bullying at the schools. You know what bullying at the school means? 54% of Muslim students who go to public schools in California, one of the most liberal, progressive states, are subjected to school bullying. That means a majority of Muslim students give up showing their Muslim identity in order to have a normal school life. You know what that means? They don't want to pray. They don't want to be called Muslims. They want to hide their religion. This has an impact. When we talk about Islamophobia, we're talking about an industry that involves about 75 agencies and organizations with about $50 to $60 million a year budget to create fear about Islam, hatred towards Islam and Muslims. That means we see laws being passed in the country. There are so far over 200 known laws called as anti-Sharia laws passed in 44 states in America. 44 out of 50. Anti-Sharia laws. Basically to create a restriction of your ability and my ability to practice our religion, or most probably it is really to create fear of Islam. So the masses, the average American, feels that Islam is a threat and Sharia is a threat. Sharia is a negative thing that we need to restrict and protect against it. SubhanAllah. Although the Constitution is clear about protecting everyone's right to freely practice their religion. But they said this is about, one of the people leading the effort for pushing anti-Sharia laws in America, Yerushalmi. He said, my goal is not really to pass laws, it's to create this image that Islam is dangerous. It is actually to distract Muslims, where you have to defend yourself now, instead of engaging in da'wah, engaging in good effort, in feeding the homeless, building shelters. Now we have to sit down and justify why we have the right to practice our religion. So my dear brothers and sisters, when we're talking about Islamophobia, we're talking about restricting our rights to practice our religion, restricting our rights to advocate for justice. When a Muslim talks about the Trump administration, you're called anti-American. If you dare to challenge Israeli human rights violations, what are you called? Anti-Semitic or anti-Semite, right? If you are like Ilhan, Umar, may Allah protect her and bless her, if you dare to talk about the destructive role that AIPAC has played in pushing our country to do policies and support policies that actually undermine peace and justice around the world, if you dare to say that, you can talk about any lobby in America. You can talk about, you can criticize our US government in America. You have the right and you will have the freedom to criticize Trump, criticize the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, any government in the world, Saudi Arabia, Iran, UAE, Syria. In fact, you can go and say something bad about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you'll be fine in America. But dare you criticize Israel or AIPAC, what happens? It's blasphemous. You will be targeted by every media outlet, by every politician, because that's the sacred cow of politics in America. And the targeting is usually on Muslims, because as studies have shown, over 80% of Islamophobia is funded by Zionist organizations in America. So there's a long history. Some of it is driven by Christian fundamentalists who are afraid to see any religious community thrive in America. But much of it is politically oriented, not religious. Much of it is because this group of right-wing bigots, hate mongers, they want to create in America a public that is misinformed. They want to create strife between Muslims, Christians, and Jews. They want to create misperception about Islam and Muslims, because if they do that, then the average person in America will never hear the crimes and the human rights violations that Israel is doing against the Palestinians using our tax money. So it's a very politically oriented Islamophobia. But unfortunately, it's something that has an impact on our livelihood. As I said, the laws that are being pushed. The Muslim ban pushed by Trump is a result of Islamophobia. Because has he passed any ban against any other country, any other race or religion? No. The ban is specifically about Muslims. But alhamdulillah, I want to say that we are making a difference. As a community, we're no longer where we used to be 30 years ago. I just came back from Washington, D.C. on Thursday. We have the USCM, or the United States Council of Muslim Organizations, annual Muslim Advocacy Day, which is actually 2 days. This is the 5th. CARE used to do it actually five years before that. Alhamdulillah, this is the 5th year under the USCMO, which is an umbrella organization of all the major national Muslim organizations. MAS, AMP, CARE, ICNA, MUNA, and other groups. The groups of Imam Muhammad and others. Alhamdulillah, there were more than 500, maybe 550 Muslims from throughout the country attending. And I can tell you, we go 20 years ago when we used to do this, wallahi, we would be lucky if an office of a congressperson would meet with us. They would send us an intern. Today, when we went last time, I can tell you we had meetings, just our Southern California delegation. We met with 7 or 8 actual members of Congress themselves. They will come out of the subcommittee meetings and meet with us because they can't ignore you. Yet they know you're an informed community, you're a voting community, you're a successful community. You vote, you donate, you contribute, you run for office, you volunteer, and I hope most of you do that. They can no longer ignore us. And when the congressperson cannot meet because they're still out of town, they send us the chief of staff. Wallahi, we went to lobby, and I will finish inshallah in a minute. We went to lobby on 4 issues. Inshallah, during the Q&A, we'll elaborate on them. The first one is dealing with the Muslim ban. How can we defund it? How can we make it illegal to discriminate on the basis of religion? Number 2, to push for immigration reform laws. So migrants, when they come to America to seek asylum, they are not mistreated. Their children are not separated from them at our border. So people are not discriminated against because they're brown. This is an issue that touches Muslims, but mostly touches others too. And alhamdulillah, Muslims will care for all. Third issue is to push for a resolution that recognizes the contributions made by American Muslims. Alhamdulillah, the resolution was already introduced by Congresswoman Judy Chu, supported by dozens and dozens of members of Congress. And inshallah, it will pass this year. Before, under the Republican-controlled Congress, it was impossible. Now it will pass. The fourth issue was dealing with human rights issues, especially the issues dealing with the human rights targeting or violations targeting our Uyghur Muslims in China, known sometimes as Uyghur, the Muslims, 8 million people, and we'll have to talk about that, and the Rohingya Muslims. Alhamdulillah, we get support on all of them, and inshallah all of these issues will be pushed forward. Jazakumullah khair.
Barakallah feek. Wallahi, it's great news, and alhamdulillah, I follow you as well, and all the brothers going to Congress, or in behalf of all of us. So I want you to keep the questions until the end, so to control the time. So inshallah, we'll move the mic, speaker after speaker, and inshallah, we'll come back to you after this. Dr. AhmedSoboh, inshallah, with the next 10 minutes.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How's everyone doing? Alhamdulillah. How many of you has their children or youth with them today in the camp? Okay, well, I want to tell you, mashallah, be proud of your children. May Allah bless them. I got to engage with many of them this morning during the youth hike, and it's a beautiful, beautiful feeling to see our young generation, first of all, proud of their identity, active, and eager to do things that are increasing their knowledge of Islam. And yet, many of them were doing really adventurous hikes with me today. Is that Haneen in the back? That's you? That's a daredevil. I don't like to say that word, but mashallah, she was a brave girl jumping off the rocks and going, and many of them did that as well. So may Allah bless them all, and inshallah you see them growing up as amazing adults, men and women who will serve the country, will save Islam, and will serve the community as well. So may Allah bless you. I have a common advice that I tell people when I go and give talks sometimes. I tell them, don't be a dentist. Where are the dentists here? I know there's many dentists with us today. MashaAllah, MashaAllah. So when you go to the dentist, what happens? They sit down, they take x-rays for you, then they give you a really mean lecture. You have 2 cavities. How come? You're horrible, you're a bad person. But they don't tell you that you have 28 good teeth. Right? You only have 2 cavities, but 28 teeth with no cavities. They don't give you the positive side of the story. And that's how dentists are. So what I'm asking you to be, don't be a dentist. Always look at the positive side of the picture. When you look at things, always look at the bright side. Look at the light at the end of the tunnel. There's a lot of good things happening. And what Hussam just mentioned right now are all, mashallah, good news. The fact that we're working together to do what we're doing, to have 550 people in DC, in the Congress, to talk on our behalf, that's amazing. We are going in that direction, inshallah. But sadly, I have to be a dentist right now and talk about challenges. Because the theme of today's topic, or today's talk, is what are the challenges that are facing the Ummah. I wish maybe in another section we'll say what are the good things that are happening in the Ummah, and we'll talk about these good things as well. But from a diagnostic point of view, challenges that we're facing as a community, some of them are external, are not specific to us. Everyone is facing them. Economy, health insurance, taxes, immigration, traffic on the 405, traffic on the 91. These are the things that everyone is facing. These are challenging that are general. And then there are specific external challenges that are caused by people upon us, like Islamophobia, like Meso-Islamia, which is a new term that means the hate of Islam and Muslims. Because Islamophobia, it means the fear of Islam and Muslims. Someone might be afraid of us, but they don't necessarily act upon that hate. 2 weeks ago when I was in New Zealand and we met the people there and we met the community there is no hate of Islam. It's just that one individual who came from another country and committed that terror attack. That is called hate of Islam and Muslims. There are people in Texas and Mississippi, Louisiana, who might be afraid of Muslims. They have Islamophobia, but they don't hate us. They don't act upon that hate. So that's a new term that I want you to know about. It's called Meso-Islamia, and a lot of academians and scholars are writing about it. That's another challenge that we're facing from outside on our community. Discrimination, the travel ban, things that are, we're not causing it to ourselves. It's not happening within our community. It's happening because of outside effects and outside influence, and that is what's called external challenges. Now, when it comes to the internal challenges that we have in our community, unfortunately, there's quite a good number of these challenges that we have to pay attention to them. We have to face them. We have to try our best to deal with them. For example, our masajid. How are we doing with our masajid? Are we united as a community? Does Masjid Hawthorne and Masjid Lunita has good relationship? That's beautiful. How is their relationship with Corona Masjid or Riverside Masjid? When Shura Council sends out an advisory, tell every masjid we want you to do this. Are we working together as a united community to do it? Or everyone thinks that they know better? That's a challenge we're facing. Luckily, alhamdulillah, things are moving forward in the right direction, but we still have a long way to go, and each one of us should pressure our leadership in our local masjid. You should talk to your imam, you should talk to your board and tell them, let us do what the other masajid are doing so we can be together. Let us not be by ourselves. Because Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said very clearly, the shaitan will attack you when you're by yourself, just like the wolf attacked the sheep when it's by itself. And that applies for the individual and also applies for a community. If you're a community by yourself, it's easy for others to attack you and put you down. But if we, as a 600,000 Muslims in Southern California, are united, then we will make an impact and a positive difference in the discourse that people are using to talk about us. So that is number 2, which is unity among our masajid. Our imams, how are they doing? You know, the imam is the one who gives khutbah every Friday in the masjid. Are they aware of things that are happening around them? Are they feeling the desire to serve the community? That is something we need to pay attention to. That's another challenge. And number 3, our aqidah. You know, the other day I got a request on Facebook from a gentleman. His name is Muhammad, to friend me. Get the friendship request on Facebook. His name is Muhammad, mashallah. Before I click OK, I go and find out who's that person. I don't just accept anybody. So I went and I tried to see who's that person. Name is Muhammad, lives in Los Angeles, religion atheist. How is that possible? Why are we seeing this? Why are we seeing several young people in our community are leaving Islam? Why? What's happening? Is there anything we can do to stop that? That's another challenge. That's a flood that's happening in our community because of the atheism movement in America, in Germany, and the world. It's very, very powerful. We have the unmasked generation. People who do not like go to the mosque. Who like to gather in homes, they go out, they go to clubs, coffee shops, but they don't like to go to mosques. There is a term for them, they call the unmasked. Why? One day I was in one of the masajid, and a sister came to give fitra, zakatul fitra on Eid Day, here in Orange County, not Southern California. She came to drop the Eid fitra in the box. It looks like it's her first time to come to masjid, because she's dressed inappropriately. She's dressed Eid outfit, no hijab, extremely provocative outlook. The moment she put the money in the box, the imam saw her and started yelling at her, Astaghfirullah, get out of here, why are you coming like this to the masjid? Now do you think that woman will ever come back to the masjid? She's 18, 19 years old. I don't think so. When some guy walks into the masjid with his shoes, and he comes all the way to the front with his shoes, what do we usually do to them? What do you think? This person maybe never been to a masjid. If he comes to the masjid with his shoes, that means he doesn't know that he has to take it out. So we have to make sure that we attract people to the masjid, not make them run away from it. And that's the challenge of the unwas, or the people who are not connected to the masjid. And we have a challenge of tatarruf, or extremism, whether it's towards the immorality or towards the extremism and radicalism. We have people, not necessarily violent, alhamdulillah, we don't have violent people, but we have people who think everyone is a bad Muslim and they are the best Muslims. One day I was going to Hajj and I met Wazir al-Awqaf al-Iraqi, and we were talking, me and him, and I asked him, Ya akhi, why are they giving us Kitab Nawaqid al-Islam? Kitab Nawaqid al-Islam, they give you, I was invited by the government, so they give it to you once you get to the airport. The book tells you what makes you a non-Muslim. So I'm going to Hajj, why do I need what makes me a non-Muslim? We saw a young man inside Al-Haram. He's reading the book. And so we asked him, why are you reading this book? Do you know if you apply the rules of this Nawaqid al-Islam, 90% of the people doing tawaf are not Muslims? He said, yes. And they said, what's hukum then? They said, they should be killed. He said, but not now. There's a guy who thinks that way simply because he misunderstands. But if he sits down with a sheikh like Hamdy, with a scholar like Sheikh Hamdy, and he understands what is the true definition of Nawaqid al-Islam, what makes a person non-Muslim, and how we should deal with that, that makes a difference in the way we look at things. And finally, and the most important thing is what we face in our generation now is the immorality, in'idam al-akhlaq. You know, Islam is not just ibadah, not just ibadat, not just rituals. When Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said what? إِذَا جَاءَكُمْ مَنْ تَرْضَوْنَ دِينَهُ. Why? If a man comes to you to ask for your daughter's hand, if he has deen and khuluq, why didn't he say deen only? Why did the Prophet say only if he's praying all the time, if he's fasting all the time? Because he differentiates. He said people who are practicing are not necessarily on good Islamic manners. You have to look at both. And we have to make sure that this flood of immorality, you cannot drive on any freeway without seeing a billboard of a bad picture. You cannot watch a show on TV without seeing a commercial that's not appropriate. We cannot go to any website without seeing a banner on the site for something promoting immorality and fahisha. This is something that we need to keep in our mind, and inshallah that we can talk about it more and more throughout this camp. These are few challenges that I thought of. Immorality and i'dam al-akhlaq, something that we have to practice on developing in our youth and ourselves as much as possible, inshallah, so we can improve those parts in our community. Jazakumullah.
Assalamu alaikum. So I'm going to take the first 30 seconds, ask you to identify someone who sits next to you quickly. So you don't have to move, just look at him. And I want you to introduce yourself without mentioning your name, or your age, or where you live, or what do you do for a living. Do it right now. So you are not supposed to mention your name, or what do you do for a living, or your age, or even where do you live. Anything else other than that? Jazakumullah khairan. So I meant by doing that quick exercise is to touch the issue of the challenges that face us as Muslims, but now from an individual perspective. So I claim that number one challenge is defining your identity. I am a student, I am a father, I am an imam, I am a motorcyclist, I am a judo player, I am a husband, I am a neighbor, I am a Muslim. So, number one challenge for me is to take my identity wherever I go as a Muslim. So I am a Muslim motorcyclist, I am a Muslim father, I am a Muslim husband, I am a Muslim brother, I am a Muslim doctor, I am a Muslim student, I am a Muslim leader, I am a Muslim community builder. Defining that identity is very important. From not only defining your perception, but also the actions of your perception. Your actions are the products of your thoughts. So if I think as a Muslim, wherever I am, as a Muslim father, before being Assyrian or Pakistani or Egyptian, before being anything else, I am a Muslim father. So number one, I say we have to define our main identity, which is being Muslim. Number two, find a life purpose. And I'm talking to you as parents and as also individuals. Define your purpose of life. Do not live your life, even as a worshiper, or even as a physician, or even as a teacher, or even as an imam, without having purpose in life. What is your purpose in life? And it's not just enough to say, well, my purpose in life is to go to Jannah. Well, that's everybody's purpose of life. But what is that legacy that you want to achieve before your death? What is that one thing that you wish to accompany you in your grave? Whatever it is, define it, name it, maybe share it to your wife or your husband, maybe to your son. I have my 3 boys, each of them still to define their own purpose of life, but I'm working with them and they are working with me, and guess what? I even did not define my purpose of life yet. That's something that I would tell you in 2 words. This is my purpose of life. I have so much in my life that I am proud of and grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for, but to define your purpose of life is a mechanism, is a progress, is a process that by itself, it's a process of ibadah. Define it and make sure that you are clear about it. Number 3, self-development. We live in a very sophisticated life that sometimes we forget that we need to develop ourselves. We need to work on ourselves. Beside being happy, being grateful, being positive, being interact with the world around you, with your family, you need to develop yourself. To develop yourself spiritually. So you need a spiritual exercise that would help you develop yourself and be able to measure the achievement of developing yourself spiritually. Physically, we need to exercise. And physically is not just saying, well, yes, I have membership at the YMCA. No, you need to go, you need to be part of a certain group exercise, you need to learn maybe a discipline, martial art discipline. Maybe you need to go and learn some lifting weight or swimming. When Umar ibn al-Khattab said, teach your children swimming and horse riding and archery, and he's inviting us to interact in life and have some talents and some good skills that we develop that makes us proud about ourselves, and also change our way of looking at ourselves and interacting in the life around us. Educationally, it's not enough that you have PhD. Well, there's nothing there's no other certificate that you could get better than PhD. However, you have PhD in engineering, but maybe you need to have continuing education in public speaking. And maybe the following year you will have continuing education in first aid. Or maybe you need to have a third one would be in legal aid. And more skills that you develop, more grateful you will be about yourself, and more beneficial you will be to the society you live in. Also financially, it's not enough that I have a salary at the end of the month and I'm alhamdulillah secure and I praise Allah for the check that is deposited in my bank account. Try with maybe 5% of your income to start a business. And that business could be something that you don't know about right now, but maybe someone would come that trustworthy and strong and fit to share with you ideas, and you start a small business and you teach your kids that it is important to invest in such development, financial development. Also intellectual development, and which is different than educational development. It's very important that you help yourself develop yourself intellectually, to think deeper, to have ability to analyze things, to have ability to interact with different personalities, especially when you deal with children or when you deal with your classmates or when you deal with workers. Not everybody is sensitive, nor everybody care about social and interaction between people, nor everybody is a task-driven, that you give him a spoon, he makes a hole in the wall and he will penetrate the wall and get you to the next room. Everybody is different. Learning how personal behaviors and how different, and we are diverse when it comes even to personal behavior, and there's no good and bad. It's just that we need to maximize the outcome when we interact with people, and also intellectually comes after that socially. Develop yourself socially. Do you know your cousins? Do you know your extended cousins? Do you know your in-laws and extended in-laws? If you define every day of the 365, 5 minutes that you will call someone that usually you don't talk to. I'm doing my rotation now in a hospital that is an hour and a half away. So every day I drive 4 in the morning to the hospital. I have hour and a half, and in my hour and a half I have a routine that 1 or 2 of those developments I could listen to tapes, I could make some phone calls on my way back, I could do a lot, or even plan for next week activities. Self-assessment, it's very important. Sheikh Hamdi and many of our scholars will teach us how to actually, the Prophet ﷺ, before anybody else, he said, حَاسِبُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ قَبْلَ أَن تُحَاسَبُوا وَزِنُوا أَعْمَالَكُمْ قَبْلَ أَن تُوزَنَ عَلَيْكُمْ. Now again, I'm not talking to you as just individuals, but as parents. I remember when I was a little kid and I would be short of some reward, I would go to my aunt or go to my neighbor and just knock at 10 p.m. and say Assalamu alaikum, and I'm short of some hasanat today. I just came to make salat rahim, or came to just say Assalamu alaikum, and just the feeling that your son is really taking it seriously to watch himself or herself is very important. Then it leads to another important concept, which is do not teach your sons to count days. And unfortunately, our children, unconsciously, they count days instead of making each day count. In another way, they always think of, oh, when I'm 18, I'll do this. And then when I finish school, I'll do this. And when I get married, I'll do this. Or I move out, I will do this. Make every day counts. The Prophet ﷺ, almost every day had something going on. Even At-Ta'if, as we discussed yesterday, the whole At-Ta'if, time is over. Time is over. Jazakumullah khair. That's impressive. That's right.
No, time is over. He used the salam at the beginning, that's the short.